Okay, so recently I did a video on how the Italian language doesn't make any sense, and it attracted a lot more attention than I think I was expecting, including a half dozen video responses. So, okay, Ines. Oh my God. Anyway, the reaction that video received was surprising. I mean, I wasn't expecting it to pull as much attention as it did. I made the video because I wanted to talk about a topic that I'm very passionate about, and I wanted to try a little bit of a different angle, which is, you know, a little bit more on the comedic side. The format seemed to work, and so I thought I would do this again, just for French. Ines. She's stealing the show. Just to say that this isn't meant to be taken 100% seriously. This is just a way for me to share some observations on things that surprised me about the language, that don't make 100% sense to me, or that I found confusing or strange, just as a foreigner having gone through the process of learning French. So I'm going to try to avoid the obvious jokes and observations that have been made before about the French language that we've all, or maybe a lot of us, or some of us, I don't know, have seen on the internet. And I'm going to try to offer something original here. Le double sens, double meaning. One observation that I've made about the French is that oftentimes what they say and what they mean are two very different things. And by very different things, I mean sometimes opposite. This is apparent in their humor, le deuxième degré. I don't know, I've really struggled with it personally. So I'm going to provide two sets of examples here to illustrate my point. The first is with expressions. The level of nuance here is really quite high, so I'm going to try and avoid making vast generalizations. But there are a lot of expressions in French that either mean the opposite of what they sound like, or you basically say the opposite of what you mean. So in French, there are actually multiple ways to say good. There's bien, bon, ça dépend de la situation. Basically, since this is French that we're talking about here, that is way too straightforward. More often than not, what you would usually hear from the French is an expression more along the lines of pas mal, which translates to not bad. And by not bad, they actually mean good. It's actually good to hear pas mal. In fact, and again, this goes down to intonation and depends on how these sorts of things are said, but pas mal, not bad, could actually be better than bien, which means good, right? So, you know, in terms of the scale here, the different registers, a French person could say, c'est bien, and that's like, it's good, but not really. Or they could say, c'est vraiment pas mal ça. And that would mean more along the lines of, wow, that is really good. Even though what they're actually saying is that it's just not bad. Or, you know, another example of this, and again, there are almost an infinite number of variations here, but you can say vraiment pas mal, which means really not bad, which actually means really quite good, depending on how you say it. If you say it with the right intonation, that's what that means. Intonation is really important. I think you say what you mean to say through how you say the words. Another expression that drove me crazy is sans doute, which if you translate directly to English means without doubt. And so you would think that that would mean like without a doubt, no doubt. However, if you look this up on the internet, the translation is a lot closer to probably. So in reality, you're actually expressing some level of doubt. And on top of it, if you add the layer of intonation here, the way the French actually use this expression, it means something closer to maybe, honestly. When they say it, it's oftentimes sans doute. You know, you do the expression, it's sort of like a sans doute. And yeah, if you, a more accurate translation of this expression would actually be something like with a little bit of doubt. Now, if you really want to express no doubt, you have to be super specific about it. You have to say sans aucun doute, which means without any doubt. These subtleties show up a lot in French. Another great example is the use of the word terrible, which if you translate to English means more or less terrible, right? So in that sense, we're okay. But the French also have an expression, pas terrible, which translated to English directly is not terrible. And really, pas terrible can mean a whole bunch of different things. Again, it's down to the intonation, but pas terrible can oftentimes actually mean like pretty bad. Even though you're saying it's not terrible, really what you mean is that it's kind of terrible still. You know, for example, I don't know, la soupe n'est pas terrible. The soup is really pretty mediocre. Like, you're not saying it in a positive way. I've never heard the French really use this expression in a positive way. I hope that sort of paints a picture. There's sort of an infinite number of examples of this. I haven't even talked about le verlan, which is another manifestation of the way the French will oftentimes remix words that they already have and give them new meanings and flip them around and complicate stuff. It's a reason I actually love this language, but as a foreigner, it just drives you crazy. Strange names. So the French often like to describe things using other things. And I have a series of examples that I can offer here. I'm not saying this is unique to the French language. I'm sure we do this in English as well, and I'm sure this exists in a variety of languages, really, but it doesn't change the fact that it's kind of strange. Like, when you first stumble on these names and expressions, it conjures a totally different image. So, for example, an apple in French is une pomme, okay? And a potato in French is a pomme de terre, which is like an apple of the earth. That's like the most common example, but there are plenty of others. One of the strangest ones that I came across is the name of a kite in French. The way you say it is a cerf-volant, which translates to a flying deer. I don't really understand. Like, that's one of the last things that I think of when I see a kite. I don't know if there's a relationship with Santa Claus. That's honestly the only thing I could possibly think of. And another great example is with bats. They're called les chauves-souris in French, which, if you translate once again directly to English, it's bald mice. Kind of a strange image. And there's other stuff that the French say that is just kind of weird, once again, if you directly translate it. And I'm not advocating for directly translating from one language to another. That is not something that I recommend doing necessarily when you're learning a new language. But when you're sort of engaging in a new culture, in a new place, and you're just trying to understand what's going on, you're using what you know as a frame of reference. So it really surprised me when I started hearing the word vachement, which the French use to mean like a lot. But really, like vache, une vache is a cow. So it's sort of like saying cowly. So it's vachement bien, it's cowly good. It's a cow level good. Anyway, you get the idea. The French are highly creative. I guess that's one way to put it. The French versus the Belgians versus the Swiss. So if you took high school French at all, then you know that the numbers in French are a complete mess starting at 70. From 1 to 69, you're fine, it makes more or less sense. And then from 70 to 99, I don't even understand. It's so strange. That's not even what I'm talking about here, okay? That's not even the point I want to make, but I feel like I need to give a little bit of context, okay? And then we're going to involve a variety of different nations here because I think the dynamics between these different countries is what makes me laugh. So the context that I think you need to know is that starting at 70 in French, the French start using previous numbers to say these like other numbers instead of just having a name for 70, right? So, for example, 70 in French is 70, which is 60-10. That is, that's strange enough, but then it gets worse when you hit 80, 80, 420, 4 times 20, and then 90 is 90, which is 4, 20, 10, and then, you know, all the way up to 99, 99, 420, 10, 9. It's a little bit all over the place. Whatever, like, that's part of French. You learn these numbers, it's part of the language. I use them every day. However, this changes from country to country. The Belgians don't say 70 or 90 in a really strange way. They say it more in line with other Romance languages, more in a, like a sensical way. They say 70 for 70 and 90 for 90 and the 90s. So they make fun of the French for saying 70 or 90, which is 70 and 90. But they still say 80, which is 420 for 80. Really, the only people that are right here are the Swiss, who say 80 for 80. But the Belgians make fun of the Swiss for saying that, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So, in conclusion, all of these countries speak the same language, but not really at the same time. This last point is a little bit of a bonus. It's not really so much about how the French language doesn't make any sense. This is more so about, I just wanted to share a few things that sort of caught me off guard that really surprised me as I was learning the French language. And it is that some expressions are really quite graphic. Okay, And I'm not saying that's not the case in English. I'm just saying that, once again, as a foreigner learning this language, I was shocked a few times. So, for example, if you want to say something is boring or annoying, you can say "ça me fait chier," which, again, if you translate it, it means it makes me shit. I'm shitting myself, basically, out of boredom, which is like so much further. That's just so much more graphic than I feel like you need to be to express boredom, but hey, you can go even further. And by the way, this is probably gonna make this video demonetized, but whatever, in the name of education. You can say, "Je m'en bats les couilles," which basically also means I don't care. I don't care. Translating this to English, les couilles are testicles, and when you say "je m'en bats," it's like, you're like sort of beating your testicles. Like, papa. That's how little you care about what you're talking about. So, as a final little anecdote here, Jacques Chirac was a former French president, and he used to use the expression "cela m'en touche une sans faire bouger l'autre," which is an expression that is referencing his own testicles, where he's referencing like how something could touch one without moving the other. And once again, it's to display how little of an impact whatever he was referring to had on him. Just thought that was kind of interesting to share. Feel free to criticize me for having the maturity of an 8-year-old. I just think it's hilarious. Like, come on. These are really creative expressions. If you enjoyed this video, I can keep this series going. I could do one on Spanish, I could do one in Portuguese, maybe more on French or Italian. You guys let me know. Also, I wanted to say that this video is sponsored by NordVPN, which is one of the tools that I use in my arsenal for language learning and in general just enjoying material in other languages. Having a VPN has helped me access material that I wouldn't ordinarily be able to have access to in different countries, where oftentimes different subtitles or different dubbing or just straight up different movies or TV shows are available. So that's one reason why I have NordVPN and have been using NordVPN over the last few years. But I also use it as like a line of defense whenever I have to connect to public Wi-Fi. It's not really a good idea to use public Wi-Fi, especially whenever you're dealing with something sensitive. Oh, by the way, in terms of getting access to material in other countries, this even applies to YouTube. There are certain videos that you don't have access to, or that I don't have access to from here in France, that I sometimes have to turn a VPN on for to be able to access, to be able to watch. I've really enjoyed using NordVPN. It's simple, it's fast. I have it on my phone and also on my computer. So if you are interested, you can go to nordvpn.com/nobackupPlan or use the coupon code NOBACKUPPLAN to get a 2-year plan with an additional month at a huge discount. As always, I will link to that down below. Thank you so much for watching. For those of you guys that are interested in language learning, I have a class available online that I'll link to as well down below. Just felt like I could mention that. And yeah, let me know if you'd like to see more of these kinds of videos, and I'll see you guys soon. Oh.